think it can be helpful from time to time to stop and consider what it means that we're made in God's image and likeness, that from the very beginning of creation, God stamped his image indelibly on each of us. In the gospel today, one of the polemic gospels in which the Jewish leaders, threatened by Jesus's teaching, unwilling to change, have decided to destroy him and are in the process of trying to trap him. They ask him about the Roman tax and if they should pay it or not. And as is his wont, Jesus says, "You're asking the wrong question." Right? And so he gets a coin, and we know the story. It has Caesar's image on it, plus it's in one of their pockets. And he says, so give back to Caesar what's Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. And sometimes over the course of our history, we've adjusted the meaning of this teaching to be primarily about the division of church and state, about what belongs to the secular realm and what belongs to God's realm. Such an idea would have been completely unthinkable to Jesus or anybody who heard him. And so we should probably re-examine this with a slightly more accurate historical perspective. That Jesus isn't suggesting that there's these two realms and some things belong to Caesar and some things belong to God. He says, on the one hand, face it, like Rome has a bigger army and you're gonna have to live within their realm if you want to live. And Jesus and the Pharisees both would have agreed, you find the best ways you can to work around it, but they would have agreed that living is better than not living. And so they'd all come to plenty of ways to work with and even pay taxes to the Romans, as much as they disliked it. But then Jesus says, give to God what is God's. And if that Roman coin was marked with the image of the emperor who thought he was a god, we have been marked with the image of our God. And it's not just that God might deserve an hour a week for Sunday Mass, so we should give it to him. It's not that God deserves some spiritual place in our lives, that our bodies belong to Caesar and our world and our souls belong to God. No, God has marked us with his image. And in baptism, he told us that we were his beloved, and he made us through baptism as children. And as we were confirmed, we were marked with the Holy Spirit. And that ownership of our God was made even more clear for the world to see. That we are God's completely. And then we can figure out the details, right, of how we survive in a secular world where we live. But we give to God ourselves first. That's not usually how we think, right? Normally we have to divide up our resources three ways. The biggest pot, as much as I can hold on to, goes to me. If I have to, if I can't convince my politicians to lower my taxes enough, whatever I have to give to Caesar, I do, as little as possible. And then the smallest category, whatever's left over, can go to God. But Jesus is turning their tables and ours upside down and says, give everything to God. Everything, because you are marked with God. And then figure out the details, right? You still have to have dinner. You still have to send your kids to college. You still have to survive in a world that is very much secular and upside down. But as you do so, know that you are marked, not with the coin of the realm, not with George Washington or Benjamin Franklin, but rather with the image of your God. And for us to give to God what belongs to God.